Hi guys, good evening, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. Hope you all had a restful, wonderful weekend. And of course, tonight on my video, I will be doing my episode recap and review for the pilot episode of the brand new AMC series, Fear the Walking Dead. Now, before I go on, of course, with all my episode review videos, I must warn you, this will be full of pretty big spoilers. So if you have not had a chance to catch the series premiere for Fear the Walking Dead, stop watching and listening to this video and go and watch it right now if you can. Online, on TV, whatever, just go watch it because it's really good. That being said, I really liked it. You know, it had that Walking Dead-esque feel to it because, of course, this is the same universe as the show we know and love. We're just finally seeing what's happening in other parts of the world. In this case, it's Los Angeles, California, and this is like the very beginning of the apocalypse. Well, not the very beginning, but like this is the early stages of the outbreak. Basically, what our cast of characters look like so far, we have a man and woman in a relationship. It's Madison and her boyfriend, Cliff. Madison is a high school guidance counselor. She has a teenage daughter and a 19-year-old son who is a drug addict living on the streets, and she has no, solid relationship with him. It seems like they've had a falling out. And then her boyfriend, Cliff, is a high school teacher at the same school she works at, and he has his ex-wife and his own grown son as well to deal with, his own high school-age son as well. So it's like we've got a interesting family unit here, and they're not even a family unit. I mean, Cliff and Madison live together, and then her daughter, Alicia, lives with them, and of course her druggy son lives on the streets. So that's what we have so far, and it was quite good. What we saw here was that we saw Nick. His name is Nick. We saw the drug addict waking up in this abandoned church somewhere, and obviously it's a place where the homeless crash, where junkies crash. He wakes up and he's asking for Gloria, his junkie girlfriend or his friend or whatever, looking around for her. He finds a mauled body of a man with his throat ripped out, a fresh kill. He's freaking out. And, of course, he's not sure if he's hallucinating this or if this is real. And then he finds his friend. She's bent over something, and he goes to reach out to her. She turns around, and, of course, as we the audience knows, she's a walker, and a freshly turned walker at that, and sure enough, she has chewed away and eaten another man's face, like his lips have been ripped off of his face. You know, something I've noticed in the past couple years is that zombies in the world of The Walking Dead, and now Fear the Walking Dead, have a thing for going for the face and ripping off the lips. And even Greg Nicotero, an executive producer and head makeup guru on The Walking Dead and this show, Fear the Walking Dead, he'll even admit that a lot of walkers have ripped off lips. Like, some of them don't even have lips. It's just like these ripped patches of flesh around where their lips used to be, around their mouths, showing how bony and skeletal their teeth are. Like, that's how they look. And obviously, they're doing that for these walkers in this show. These walkers, of course, I don't think are going to be that badly decayed at first, since this is the early stages of the outbreak. I think they're still going to be nasty looking. I'm sure we've got some pleasant and gory surprises ahead of us, but they look good enough to me so far. And, Nick freaks out. He runs out of the church. He runs into traffic. He's hit. He's alive with just a couple of bruises and bumps. And then his family gets the call. His mom, his sister, and then Travis, his mom's boyfriend, all come down there, make sure he's okay. Cops are questioning him, but since he's not under arrest or he hasn't really done anything, Madison dismisses them, and, she tries to get out of him what happened. He won't talk to her. He doesn't want to talk to her. He doesn't want her help. Basically, we're seeing an extremely dysfunctional family unit here. There's been deterioration between Madison and her son, and it looks like there's some deterioration starting between Madison and her daughter. And then her son and daughter, Nick and Alicia, since he's not really there for her, and doesn't live with them, and he's been out of contact and in and out of rehab so much, we're not really sure what kind of relationship these two have with each other. I mean, she seems to mockingly feed him his hospital food while they're talking about what's been going on in their lives. And you know, it's like they seem to have somewhat of a stable relationship, but it seems like they don't love or entirely trust each other either at the same time. And Nick is not fond of Cliff. That much is certain. Meanwhile, you know, Madison wants to stay at the hospital, but Cliff is like, no, no, you're going to be late for school as it is. I'll stay here with him. She's like, oh, thanks so much for this. She heads to school. She sees her boss, the principal. Kids are coming through, the metal detectors, and one boy sets it off. But right before the principal can search him, Madison notices something about this boy. She quickly rushes up to him, and as she pretends to search him, she secretly plants some change, some loose coins in his pocket, and then, no, actually, no, she doesn't put them in his pocket. She just acts like she reaches in his pocket or his backpack, and she pulls out some coins, but the coins are actually hers, and she insists to the principal, oh, it's nothing, look, loose change, it's the metal and loose change, that's what's off the metal detectors, there's nothing there, but she noticed a knife. This kid had a knife. She brings him into her office, and she's like, what the hell was that, Tobias? Are you asking to get expelled? I could expel you, if I wanted to. It sounds like he's a straight-A student who's got a good track going, but he is scared out of his mind. He seems absolutely terrified and convinced, very, very convinced that something seriously wrong is going on in the country, if not the world. Because he makes references how there are reports coming out of 5 different states, then they don't know if it's a microbe or a virus or some kind of contagion, whatever it is. And then his first response to her is there's safety in numbers. So he's already heard rumors and stories about people who are grouping up together, or they realize that, there's safety in numbers, because we haven't hit full-on apocalypse stage yet, but we're very, very, very close to it. So he's already adapting that survival mentality, there's safety in numbers. And he desperately tries to convince his guidance counselor that shit's about to go down, and no matter what we do now, none of it's really going to matter anymore, because none of our plans are going to come through. Because she makes references how he's going to get, he has a good chance of getting a scholarship to college of his choosing, but he's like, none of that matters anymore, none of our plans matter, everything's going to change. And of course, we as the viewers know that, we're like, we're right with you, buddy, you're damn right things are going to change. But our poor characters, of course, have no idea what is going on and what is going to come. So after kind of an unsettling conversation, he leaves. She kind of gives a friendly nod, and he leaves her spare change behind, saying, thanks for saving my ass back there. Meanwhile, Cliff calls his ex-wife to let her know that, he really wants to spend the weekend with his son, but his son wants absolutely nothing to do with him. They don't go into specifics as to why they don't get along at the moment, but it's obvious he and his son don't get along, although he and his ex-wife seem to be on pretty friendly grounds for the most part. She even asks about Nick, because she heard about Nick, I'm pretty sure Cliff told her about it. She asks about him, expresses genuine concern, and then when she hands the phone over to their son, he doesn't want anything to do with him, doesn't want to talk to him. And, you can see it really hurts Cliff, because he really wants to spend the weekend with them, and he wants his son to bond with his new girlfriend and her children, and he wants them to become a family, become closer together. But he won't have it. He doesn't give a rat's ass. So Cliff is already dealing with so much with his girlfriend's kid being in the hospital and being a druggie. He's like, you know what, fine, keep him for the weekend. And then his ex hangs up on him. So that's all we see of them for the most part in this episode. Meanwhile, Nick, unfortunately, is still in the hospital, and unfortunately he's been put in restraints because the doctors were pretty convinced that he was hallucinating a lot of what he was talking about how he saw this girl eating people, and there was blood everywhere all over the floor. And he refuses to talk to his mom at first. He doesn't really talk to his sister or reveal too much. They do talk, but he doesn't reveal anything that's happened to him. It's when Travis, I'm sorry, I keep referring to him as Cliff. Cliff Curtis is the actor playing Travis. I am so sorry for confusing all of you. When I said Cliff, I meant to say Travis. Travis is the name of the character. The actor is Cliff Curtis. Sorry about that. It's been kind of a long weekend. Sorry about that. It's when Travis stays behind and he actually gets Nick to open up to him about, whatever his drug problems have been. But more importantly, what he saw and what terrified him so much that caused him to go running out of the church in the first place. And Nick tells him where to look and where to go. So sure enough, he shows up at the abandoned church. There's evidence that people have been living there and squatting there. No sign of any bodies, dead or alive. Of course, they're not alive, but you know what I mean, like dead alive. Kind of like the movie. No sign of anybody, no walkers or anything. Just a lot of icky, sticky blood all over the floor, which Travis actually slips in. He's got his flashlight and he's like, ugh. And, it's something, so something definitely happened there. Something definitely violent happened. He's just not sure what it is because he heard Nick out, and according to Nick, when he was coming out of his drug-induced state, and he's not sure if he even saw what he saw, if he hallucinated it or if it was real. He saw his friend Gloria eating one of their friends, like ripping his face off and eating it. And then that's what scared the hell out of him, and that's what made him run out of there. Oh, interesting note. The first time we see Gloria, our first walker on the show, she already has like a metal pipe sticking through her abdomen, as if somebody had attempted to defend themselves from her, but to no avail, as she's obviously has the pipe sticking out of her as if it's no big deal to her, because she's a zombie. She's already dead. So Nick eventually escapes the hospital. He convinces one of the nurses to release one of his restraints so he can use the bathroom in private. But right as he's about to escape, the old man who's been in this, not exactly a coma, but he's been in poor health and breathing deeply and unnaturally, finally flatlines, and the doctors and nurses say, get him out of the room, get him out of the room, code blue, code blue. And weird enough, the doctor says, take him downstairs, take him downstairs. And one of the nurses is like, doctor, indicating that Nick is listening. So what's all this take him downstairs crap? Is this hospital covering up walker outbreaks? Are they storing walkers down below or getting the bodies out of there because they see what happens when people turn? Who knows? Then again, when he said take him downstairs, he could have meant let's take him to a better equipped room to save his life or something. But we don't really see what happens. But Nick takes advantage of the opportunity, and he gets off of his hospital bed. He takes the old man's clothes, dresses up, and he escapes from the hospital. Of course, Travis and Madison show up demanding to know where Nick went, and the hospital's like, look, we couldn't really stop him. Plus, it's kind of a madhouse around here. We've got our own problems to deal with. Go find him yourself. So they go to one of Nick's friend's house, this guy who who went to the same rehab clinic at one point with Nick, this guy Calvin. They find him, they say, hey, it's good to see you. Have you seen Nick? Have you heard from him? Calvin's like, no, I haven't seen him at all. I don't know where he is. And then it shows Nick, of course, walking around the street, and it looks like he's bought a cheap cell phone. He dials a number. He's like, hey, man, it's me. I'm sorry to bother you now, but I really, really need your help. I could really use some help. I am completely on my own out here. Please help me. Meanwhile, cut back to the high school where Madison and Travis work, and Madison's daughter, Alicia, is it Alicia or Alicia? I'm pretty sure it's Alicia. Alicia is in a relationship with a fellow student, and they're talking about their future and about how she may go up to Berkeley or he might, but obviously they really like each other. I won't use the terms in love since they are just high school students, but they clearly very, very much like each other. He's asking about the situation with her brother. He tries to reassure her that none of the crap that's happened to him or what he's going through or the bad choices he's made is on her. It's not on her or her mom at all. So this guy is obviously a pretty good guy so far, and he cares about Alicia very much. Alicia, that's it. And so we've got relationships are forming here. We see who's in what kind of relationship with whom, whether it's a boyfriend-girlfriend thing or a father-son thing or a mother-daughter-son thing. We're getting an idea we're getting an established foundation as to who these characters are and who they are to each other. Of course, that's to be expected in the pilot episode. But we also want to see some walkers, right? So sure enough, Nick calls his friend again. We don't know who it is because he keeps calling this number on the cell phone. But Nick finally goes to this restaurant, which looks like a Denny's. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is a Denny's, just right there outside of downtown LA. And who's there to meet him? It's Calvin, the same guy that Travis and Madison talked to earlier, asking him if he had seen Nick earlier. So Calvin asks him what's going on with Nick, like why is he acting like this, what's happened to him. And Nick is trying to get answers from him, saying, like, what did you give me? Like, what did you put in the shit I bought off of you? And apparently Calvin is a drug dealer where Nick gets most of his shit from. And from what Madison said earlier in the episode, he's a heroin addict, Nick is. So it's pretty safe to assume that Calvin supplies him with heroin or at least some other kind of mind-inducing drug, because Nick seems convinced that whatever he saw couldn't have been real, so he's trying to figure out if Calvin sold him anything that might have been tainted or bad. Calvin realizes that if Nick is questioning him about the product that he sold him, other clients and customers might say the same thing, and he can't have Nick running his mouth off to the junkie community about the bad shit Calvin is selling. So Calvin reassures him that he'll take care of his friend. Uh-oh. Can't be trusted. He's a drug dealer. Sure enough, they drive to the LA River, and Nick at first seems completely unaware of what Calvin's intentions are until he sees him with a 9mm pistol. And when he tells Nick to get out of the car, Nick starts to, but then they scuffle for a little bit because Nick's trying to get the gun out of his arm, and they wrestle around and struggle for a bit until finally Nick accidentally gets Calvin to shoot himself in his chest, or he doesn't get Calvin to do it. Nick gets we can't really tell, but it looks like Nick either gets a hold of the gun or he makes Calvin do it himself and shoots himself in the chest. And Nick, of course, is just completely freaking out. You know, he's still half high, half in reality, and he leaves the car and the body behind. And then obviously he calls his mom and her boyfriend because they show up minutes later in his pickup truck. Meanwhile, after school gets out, Alicia goes to Venice Beach where she had agreed to meet her boyfriend, but after texting him repeatedly over a short little montage we see, there's no text or reply from him at all. And she says, "Where are you? You better be dead, LOL," as if like that's the only excuse you had better have if you're not going to show up. And then she texts, "I'm leaving." She looks both pissed but also concerned, which means that her boyfriend probably isn't in the habit of not showing up to their agreed rendezvous points. So what happened to him? We don't know. Meanwhile, Madison and Travis show up to help Nick, and Nick takes him to Calvin's car, and he quickly tells him and flats out says that I accidentally killed him. But then Travis calms him down and reassures him that it sounds like it was self-defense, because Nick even starts off by saying, he was going to kill me. I had to do it. I had no choice. He was going to kill me, so I killed him. But, they drive down there in the pickup to the car, and Calvin's body's nowhere to be seen. So the three of them pile into the truck, and as they're going down the dark tunnel they came in, as they're backing up, they see somebody behind them. It's Calvin. So Travis and Madison go out to help him, but Nick, remembering what he saw at the church, is like, no, don't go out there, he could hurt you. Madison reaches out to touch Calvin, but then he grabs her arm and he almost bites her, but Travis is quick enough to push him away. And they're like, Calvin, what's wrong with you? And he's got a big blood stain on his shirt, and his eyes are completely discolored, and he's moaning he's a walker. But of course, nobody knows that because nobody knows what the hell is going on. So Nick, defending his mom and her boyfriend, just puts the truck in reverse as they press themselves up against the wall of the tunnel, and he backs over his former friend. And, he backs over his friend, and then he waits for a little bit, and sure enough, Calvin's zombified walker gets up, even bloodier, with his elbow bone sticking out from his arm. Ugh, that was gross, but effective. And then he just charges him, runs him down with the truck with him on the hood, and then he brakes really fast, sends the body flying. And at first I thought, well, the hit on the concrete might have impacted his head or his brain, but it didn't, and he's just lying there in a pile of muck like, ugh. And that's actually, now I think about it, that's the last episode. That's the last scene of the episode where Madison says to Travis, "What the hell is going on?" Because earlier, before all of this happens, the previous night they're both in his pickup truck after looking all day for Nick, and they stop on the freeway, and it looks like there's some accident ahead with the ambulance. There's helicopters in the air. People are getting out of their vehicles, but the helicopters are saying, "Stay in your vehicles, stay in your vehicles, remain in your vehicles." And several gunshots are fired, but we can't see anything. It freaks out Travis, so he and Madison get back in his pickup truck and they take off. The very next day, very few students show up, and the principal remarks, only 5 students out of 1 school bus. And then he looks at the police officers who are guarding the school. He's like, "Have you guys had your flu shots?" Because apparently people are under the impression there's some kind of virus or epidemic going around, and they're treating it as a flu shot thing. That's probably why he makes that reference. But hardly any of the student body has showed up, and then students are on their phones all day looking at the leaked footage from the night before, showing what had happened that we couldn't see at first. And then Madison and Travis and all the other faculty members are watching the footage, and it shows paramedics and sheriff's deputies being attacked by a couple of freshly zombified walkers. Like there must have been a car crash or some kind of accident happened, and 2 people died and turned into walkers, just like what happened with Calvin after Nick accidentally shot him. He died and came back. And that's what happens in the footage. And these walkers are shot several times in the torso, and they simply won't go down. And nobody can believe what they are seeing. And some people are saying out loud, "Oh, this can't be real. This can't be real. This has to be fake." Those are exactly the kind of words you would hear from somebody who is terrified out of their mind. So this first episode was very, very good. I really, really liked it. At first, I was a little concerned that there wasn't enough zombie action. It wasn't for my sake. It was just mostly for the show's sake, because I thought to myself, oh, the fanboys and the fangirls are going to be bitching about how boring and slow this episode was, and there wasn't any zombie action. But I think there was a sufficient amount of zombie action for the first episode, and it was extremely promising, and it sets us up for a very exciting first season. So I really liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Thanks for tuning in here on the EdWord for all your episode recap and review needs. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like on this video. Please leave your thoughts and opinions down below. What did you guys like about this series premiere? Do you think it could have been better? Which character do you think is going to die or survive this first season? Who do you like so far and why? What do you think we'll see in this first season of Fear the Walking Dead? And of course, thanks again for tuning in, and have a great rest of the weekend. And of course, until next time, fear the Walking Dead.